Hi, many people wonder, is homeschooling for me? And today I asked the first question is, why do you want to homeschool? Why change? What's going on with your current situation that you might even consider homeschooling? Now, there's some people that they'll know they want to homeschool right from when their children are born. They said, this is the path for me. This is what I want to take. And there are other people that have always thought about it. They've always wondered, said, could I do that? Because they believe in the differences in the education they might be able to deliver or the experiences they want to share. And yet there are other people that as school progresses, they decide, I'd like to change just a little bit of what's happening with my child's education. Now, for you, in your situation, ask yourself more specifically, what is there that I want to change? Now, if you look at some of the recent surveys or studies by the U.S. Department of Education, they'll say that something like 90% of people are not satisfied with the education that their children are getting in school. 90% of homeschoolers were not satisfied with the education their children were getting in school. If you also take a look, they'll have other reasons, such as they want to have more of a hand in the moral and religious upbringing of their children. And interestingly enough, I think it was second or third most important reason that people homeschool their children is because of other circumstances, that kind of miscellaneous category. And in that other circumstances, you found things like maybe they travel. So they're a traveling family. Maybe they're a boating family where they're not around a school. Maybe they have an actor in their family that has a different schedule, or a sports family, an athlete that has to make it to different places and the school schedule doesn't work for them. So there are myriad reasons why people may choose to homeschool. But what's your reason and what is it you're looking to change? If you have some time, put pen to paper right now and say, why do I homeschool? What was there that I'm after? And you may see in this, depending on what you write down, there are generally two types of motivations. And this happens in life as well. One motivation is the fear motivation, is I'm moving from something, I'm protecting or I'm defending against something. Or the other one is the pleasure motivation, where I'm moving to something. And that might be that I see an opportunity or there's something we could do very different and special. And think of your reason now as you look at it on paper. Am I running from something, moving away from something, or am I moving towards a more positive experience, reacting versus proacting in terms of what it is you want to do with homeschooling? Now, also with that reason, consider this. Could you solve that problem elsewhere? So without doing homeschooling, maybe you could just go to a different school. And there are plenty of different educational options available. I mean, you could choose from one public school to the other public school, to another one maybe in your same area. Or maybe if you wanted more of a hand in the religious and moral upbringing of your child, choose a religious private school that's in your area. Or maybe there are alternative education schools that work for you as well. And some of those, they include Reggio Emilia, Montessori, Waldorf. I've visited alternative education schools where they just let the children choose what they want to do for their education all day long. And maybe that's a better fit for what you want. Now, I'm not trying to say no to homeschooling. I'm just trying to say, figure out what it is that you want, why you may want to change it, and could you do that elsewhere before saying, I know this is the answer. It makes for a richer and a better solution when you do decide to get to homeschooling, because you'll be much more convinced and much more confident in the decision that you're making. Now, let's just agree that homeschooling might be the right choice for you after having visited all the other options you've had, the deliberations, the anxiety, talking with your spouse or partner, about what are we going to do about our child's upbringing. You have two considerations. The primary considerations I think you need to make about homeschooling are time and budget. If I look at this from a time perspective, well, I advocate doing as little as possible. A highly efficient homeschooling is my purpose and what I really push towards. It still does require time. I think about it. I'm working with intention. We plan. We reflect upon how our son is doing. So the time element, you need to figure out if you have the time. The budget is the other side of it. And the budget might come out of a perspective of opportunity cost. As far as what could you have done to make money instead of dedicating that time with your child. Or the other one might be the budget in terms of expense of what it takes to homeschool a child. You're already paying good tax dollars, most probably, to contribute to a school system which just about every country in the world is a legal requirement that children under a certain age are schooled. So that money is already going somewhere to pay for schooling. And what you're talking about with homeschooling is adding additional expense. And that comes in terms, in form of buying curriculum, which is most apparent. But what about the museum memberships? What about the extra things you buy, the experiences, the project materials you need? All those things do add up, as well as the driving around if you're part of a co-op or hanging out with other homeschool kids. So to come back to this whole chapter about, is homeschooling right for me, I'd first ask, why do you want to make the change? And reflect on that and figure out if it's running from something or running to something. Could you fix that problem elsewhere? But yet, if you're still convinced that homeschooling is for you, figure out how much time and what kind of budget you can put toward it.